Hi there, this is Perk13 and this is a video in response to Hiram Cook's and Colorado Campers tests of the Westwind Trangia stove. I already had these stoves, and I wanted to do a little testing. I do a lot of aircraft camping and always love coffee in the morning, and currently I prepare the coffee in this six cup percolating coffee pot. So I did some initial testing to see how long it would take to perk 32 ounces. That's, measured, that's 4 cups is actually the capacity in this. I don't know why that is. They say it's a 6-cup coffee maker and only holds 4 actual cups of water, but be that as it may, 32 ounces of water in this vessel with both these stoves. I did some testing with a standard commercial Trangia burner using methanol and a timer, just to get some times on how it performed. And I was always curious as to why and what the timing would be using the Westwind stove properly versus upside down, as we've all heard. So we'll go review that real quick. I'm not going to bore you with all the individual tests. First test I ran was with the standard Westwind. It has a burner height of 3/4 of an inch, and again that's 32 ounces, 4 cups of water in the percolator. Produced a time of 14 minutes and 40 seconds, which for me, waiting that long plus the perk time for coffee in the morning would be pretty horrendous. So hoping that the Mini-Trangia stove would do better, I tried that one out. It has a burner to pot bottom height of 7/8, just 1/8 of an inch larger, yielded a lower time of 11 minutes and 2 seconds. Now I thought, well, since the burner height was only 1/8 of an inch difference and I made a substantial improvement, we'd try the standard upside down configuration of the Westwind stove, and that gives a burner height of 1 3/4 inches, which is substantially bigger. I don't like this. I don't think I would ever use this stove, at least with this size pot, in the field, because it just barely touches these corner edges, which makes it very unstable, and on any sort of unlevel ground this thing would be almost impossible to keep straight, especially when it starts percolating. It vibrates a little bit and would probably end up spilling more than it's worth. So I've got to come up with something a little bit better in the future. I will definitely be making the suggested modifications of taking at least 1/4 of an inch out of these notches, lowering the stove, increasing that flame distance, and also notching or cutting off a section of this area so that you can still use the simmer ring. But in this configuration upside down, the Westwind, or reversed Westwind as I called it, brought in a time of 8 minutes and 51 seconds. Not bad. So it went from the standard of 14 minutes and 40 seconds to 8 minutes and 51 seconds. So because of that improvement, I wanted to see if it was the flame height specifically, or the surrounding, or the reflective qualities of having more metal around it. What was it that was making the upside down Westwind so much more efficient? So I created just a simple hardware cloth circle. This is 3.5 inches in diameter. It is the same height from the ground, and of course the Trangia burner is going to be resting on the ground here, so it has the same burner height to pot ratio, or measurement rather, as the upside down Westwind stove. And I've tried this both with and without the addition of the aluminum foil, and this is a combination windscreen heat shield. Really simply, it's just a double thickness of heavy-duty aluminum foil with some notches cut on the end that interlace. Let's see where that joint is. Interlace into the hardware cloth. And I cut some holes in the, attach it, wrap it, and then come around the other side, cut some holes, and simply just lace that back in. And then you can fill the holes back up, and they just wrap around the hardware cloth. And it's very simple, very lightweight version. But this was mainly for testing. I don't know if I'll ever use this in the field or not, but I just wanted to see what the results would be. So continuing with the previous test with 32 ounces of water in the percolator pot, the cloth only pot stand with a Trangia burner produced a time of 9 minutes. Not too bad. I mean, it's actually a little bit, that's within 10 seconds of the reverse Westwind. So it's a little less efficient, but not that much. So I don't think there was too much, there wasn't too much effect here, provided by the heat shield, simply from confining the heat into a column and making it more efficient, or making a more efficient transfer to the bottom of the pot. However, this being open like that, if you look at the cross view, there's a lot of opening there for the wind to get in. So just to test the theory, I wanted to go ahead and wrap that and make it a little more efficient, or the maximum efficiency. And you notice that I have very little opening at the bottom here for the air to come in. That's to keep this to have the most wind resistance as possible. And it's also quite choked up here at the top. There's not much distance between the top of the shield and the bottom of the pot, and I did that on purpose to try to keep the flame as squelched down onto the pot as possible. I don't know if you can really see that here, but if I center the pot, you can just barely see that opening under there. So I ran that test, and the Cloth+Foil, this is again 32 ounces, 4 cups. Cloth plus the shield brought the efficiency way up and yielded a time of 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Now, that's pretty darn good. That's nearly 2 minutes off of the reverse Trangia stove time. Okay, so I think that that efficiency was brought in by the clamping down of this area and focusing all of the heat into a column, and its transfer to the bottom of the pot was very, very efficient. Now I'm going to run some more tests. I'm going to bring the water amount down to 16 ounces, or 2 cups. So this configuration, actually all of the configurations previously discussed, will be more of an apples-to-apples comparison to the previous tests. And here they go. The standard Westwind stove with 16 ounces in the percolator pot yielded a time of 8 minutes and 42 seconds. The reversed Westwind stove dropped that time to 5 minutes and 27 seconds. I also tried the cloth stand only, with no heat shield, yielded a time of 6 minutes and 3 seconds. And the cloth plus the windscreen in 16 ounces brought it down to 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Now we're starting to get into the territory of jet burners. It's a pretty impressive efficiency. I will make a couple of notes here that when it was burning that hot, these top parts of the hardware cloth were glowing bright yellow. Very, very hot heat transfer. And actually, I've got water in this at the moment, but I don't know if you can see the bottom of the pot here. Now it kind of scored it, and that's after cleaning. It also made this little ring on the table. So since this next test, I'm going to have a little aluminum pad underneath here to keep some of the heat away. And again, all of the tests here were allowed to bloom, and my stove gives a pretty proper bloom. You'll hear it probably as it starts up. Let's turn off some lights. All right. Listening for the pop. And there we have blossom. So we'll put the stove on here gingerly and start the timer. Let me move that into the light so you can see it. Very quickly, while this was cooking, you can see how orange that's already become. And if you look down in there, the entire center of this stove has become flame. It has just been completely filled with flame. It's extremely hot in there, and it's hitting right in the middle of the pot. I'm actually kind of worried about the camera. It's very hot even out to here. It's really pretty supreme. I'm quite impressed. We're only at the 230 mark. and I can already hear the water inside starting to boil. Okay, 3 minutes and 53 seconds, and percolation's pretty imminent, so I'm going to let it ride on out from here, and we'll just take a look as it comes. Again, my criteria is to see a full perk. That means the water coming out of the spout and into the window and hitting the top twice in a row in rapid succession. And it's starting to perk now. There's 2 perks in a row. So conclusions. I can conclude that this, already nice and cool to the touch here, that the hardware cloth and reflector configuration windscreen is the most efficient combination. I don't know if it's very fieldable, and it certainly doesn't pack down flat. I guess you could put it maybe inside. Might cut that down just a tad. It might fit inside this. Yeah, it would. It'd fit inside the pot itself and underneath the percolator canister, and that might work out. Certainly wouldn't be able to get that in there. But anyway, this is the most efficient configuration. However, it certainly doesn't beat the upside down Westwind by very much. And that's a shame, because I really like to use this thing right side up. But I guess I'll just have to design an oven or a stove pot holder myself that comes close to this configuration that maybe is a little more transportable. I don't know, future configuration. Anyway, Hiram Cook, Colorado Camper, thanks again for your efforts previously, and I'll probably shoot another video once I make the modifications here and maybe add that to the list. Until then, happy camping.